Saluton Chewy. It is the fifth week. No, it's the sixth week, right? Because Thanksgiving basically didn't happen. Uh, anyway, so it's Monday, and it's time to start off the week by reviewing the past sprint and talking about how we're gonna make changes. So, um, let's talk about expectations. So, when I started this project, it was like right after I quit my job, and I had nothing lined up. And I was like, I can teach in January. Until then, I need something to do to fill my time and to work towards. And I was like, let's make a game. Let's try to, I want to make open source games. I don't want to specifically make games that are just for sale. I want to make something more personal to me, which would be making things open for other people, making things free for other people. So I started with this idea of you doing the Patreon games, and at first I was like, yeah, if I'm not doing anything else, of course I can make a game in a month. Well, and I was also thinking back to Raw Rinth, which I made in 1 month. But the thing is, when I made Raw Rinth, that was like 11 years ago, and I was in college. I worked part-time, but I lived with my parents. I wasn't paying very many bills. Like, I was paying for gas, and I don't know, definitely not rent, not my car insurance. Like, no real regular payments except maybe my phone. So I had a lot less financial commitments. And now, this year, this time, it's the year 2019. I have so many more bills than I did when I was, I suppose, 20 years old, would be 11 years ago. And, I have my husband, I have other commitments, and I have to, find jobs here and there to work on things. So, I'm not known as the best, planner of timelines as a software developer. I don't think programmers are known as the best timeline estimators, but that's on me. So my expectation was I could do it in a month. I will be working on it full time. That's not really what panned out, since a job opportunity was presented to me pretty quickly, just something part-time, and when you just have something that's like, hey, don't burn all your savings, at least make a few $100 a month to pay for your soda or something. I don't know, just, better than just wasting what's in savings, which is not a ton of money. And if you count my student loans, I'm actually worth a negative amount. But, yeah. But with any job, whether you're working in food service or caring for other people or doing programming or anything else, I mean, all of that takes the work time, that takes the commute time, and it takes a lot of energy. So, you just don't have that same bandwidth that you would have if you were working on your project full time. And I don't think I'm going to be able to work on my project full time unless I retire, but millennials might not get that opportunity. Oh, yeah, and also I will be working in January again as a adjunct instructor in computer science courses, but it won't be, your standard full-time. There's a maximum of 2 classes per adjunct per college, and I'm planning on just teaching one and then also taking a tutoring position with the school. So I'll still be working part-time, and I still won't be able to do full-time game development. So that's how the expectations have changed. I didn't get 2 free months of complete no programming or no working time, completely just to focus on game dev. I've had 2 months of part-time work. And I'll continue having part-time work for the next semester. Okay, so let's talk about reactions, because I think for a lot of creative people, and myself included, my knee-jerk reaction is to beat myself up over not meeting my own expectations, which were not set as like they weren't good expectations. Like you take things for granted, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not 20, I'm 31. So for over the last decade of being in my 20s, I was always beating myself up. I still have that instinct to want to beat myself up for not doing as well as I could. Basically, since our culture is also very focused around those young, successful people making it big when they're still young, like there's this sense of like, if you don't make it by the time you're 18, you're a failure. So I've definitely felt that before, being like, okay, I'm done with college, now I have to go into the workforce. I am a failure for not escaping the workforce ahead of time by being super successful in college and publishing something or making something. So I've experienced a lot of that. And, beating myself up like, oh, you didn't plan this well. You should have planned it better. You should be working harder. You're not working hard enough. If you were smarter, you would be able to make this all work. Or if you were more tenacious, you'd just gather up all that energy. Gather up all the energy you need to get shit done. But, I have also worked over the past decade on balance and not killing myself for my projects. So I'm not going to beat myself up. If I were a friend of mine, like if I saw my friend Clarissa, it's hard to see. There we go. Clarissa, if she was beating herself up the same way I would want to beat myself up, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I fucking love you. Like, don't treat yourself that way. I'm proud of you for what you do. And, if I kind of think of myself as best friend Rachel, it's like, I'm proud of myself, even if I want to beat myself up, but I'm not going to. And it's just a matter of reminding yourself that you're human, you're not a robot, you're not some programmer monk in moving out to just go live in a cave and work on your programming all the time. You have a life, you gotta work for money, unfortunately. You have a social life, you have relationships, you have family, you have projects, you have other projects, you have time you need to relax, you have time you need to take care of your body. I don't exercise very much. I don't really like exercising, but I do like eating food. And I need to take care of eating good food. I mean, all food is good food, honestly, but so yeah, we're just people living in the best we can in the society we live in with the circumstances we have. I also am not going to beat myself up because I don't want to model that as behavior. I don't want to have this suffering artist cliche. You don't have to suffer to do art, to do your projects or anything else like that. That's not requisite. That doesn't make your art real. And I don't want others to think that in order to do their art, that they have to suffer. So I'm not going to model that behavior. Also, our worth is not measured by what we make or what we do. I know I feel a lot better when I'm making things. I feel very happy when I make things. But that does not mean I am more valuable when I am making things. I just don't really like making things. And we should be making art as a human being, not as the robot who makes art, the robot who makes games. We're human. So what else? Let's see. Okay, other thoughts maybe will cheer you up sometimes, maybe cheers me up. It is too easy to compare yourself and your work to the finished product that someone else or a team of someone else has put out there. You rarely get to see drafts of things. You rarely get to see the work in progress. You rarely get to see all the abandoned projects that everyone else has. You're not the only one with a billion abandoned projects. You're not the only one who's like uploaded screenshots or videos or news about your project only to abandon them and be like, oh no, everyone's gonna think I abandoned every project ever. We all have dead projects. And, you know, if you're looking at your thing and you're like, this is freaking ugly and it doesn't work good, you can always keep improving and refining it. Like, you know, you play even like these newer indie games, maybe they're made with fancy engines and they have all this sparkle and polish. They didn't start out that way. Like if you go to like an indie game dev meetup and you go watch other people's stuff, they're like, you know, like my friend Charlotte at the Flyover Indies was working on a car game, and for, you know, to start out with, she just has like a rectangle as the car as she's working on the physics and stuff. Like, and when you see the finished product, you'll be like, this is really cool. And I mean, even with rectangles, I think it's really cool, but you just don't get to see that as much. And also, you just don't get to see the journeys other people take on pursuing their projects, whether that's the amount of time spent on it, because for some reason you're just like, oh, this game was announced. Oh, it's out. It's been a year already, or it's been 2 years already. You don't see that process. You don't see their emotional ups and downs. You don't see any of that, really. So it's easy to think that it doesn't happen for other people, but it does. You're not the only person stressed out. So don't feel bad about being human, basically. Let's see, what else? For me, I am very much like an open source mindset. I don't really want, like, I have a problem with the name open source and that whole ecosystem, but I don't know what else to call anything. So we're gonna just go with that for now. But I like being very open about things. Like, here's the code, here's the art, here's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Like, I want all of that to be transparent. Like, transparent projects and source and everything, the process. Because, like, one, I want you to be able to, like, learn from the code or the art or use the art where you want it. But also, I know that it helps me to know that I'm not alone in things, and it's not always easy to see that, so I want to show that you are not alone also. Let's see, what else was I going to say? So, you know, you gotta take care of yourself and give yourself the balance you need. Don't just 120% programming and then the rest of your life suffers. Go do the freaking dishes, okay? And, you know, stay healthy, keep working at a healthy pace. Otherwise you're gonna burn out, so don't do that. No day is a waste. Some days you just feel like blah, and that's what it is to be human. That's okay. It's okay to just... I'm justifying this to myself. It's okay to just play Death Stranding all of Friday and not do anything else. It's okay to have an off day. It's okay to make mistakes. So, yeah, that brings me to the next part where we're going to do I already did the sprint planning, but we're changing that up because if the system doesn't work, then change it. Okay, so I did the sprint planning, but really, I just changed the system of how I'm gonna do this because, one, I'm really tired of setting up new iterations every time and having to move the issues over and relabel them and all of that, so that was really annoying, so I'm not doing that anymore. Surprise! So Instead, what I did was organize them by milestones, but like as features. So now I changed iteration 4 to the maps milestone. We can see that it's 14% complete, so the map features down here are 14% complete. I might throw some of those not in doing because I'm not doing this at the moment. I still need to fix that JSON file loading and whatever's going wrong with that. And I want to do this too, but we'll do that next. So at least I can tell that maps are 14% complete. Hey, that's a useful metric for me. I might have to go back and relabel my old tickets because now they're not serving any purpose by just being under old iterations. Okay, well, but yeah, so that's what I'm doing. We're changing this to milestone-based, or like feature-based, or like domain-based, rather than I'm going to do these tickets this sprint. Because, surprise, it's not monthly open source game development anymore. It's open source game development with Rachel now. So, good news for the patrons. It's still just per creation, like payment per one game. But now we don't know how long it's going to take. I would say I would try to get it done by the end of December, but also Christmas is coming up and I'm making gifts for everybody because I don't want to spend the money, but also I like making things. And I can make cool things. Look at this half-complete rabbit. It's not done yet. I'm working on it. So, yes. Okay. And then the next thing I need to work on is fixing the map loader, which it's probably broken because I didn't have a long stretch of time to just focus on it. Like if I hadn't have wasted my Friday. But it's the beginning of a new week. The beginning of the week feels good. Tuesday, I have a final exam. But besides studying, I will also have time to just sit for a long stretch of time and try to figure out where I put bugs in the code. So, maybe it is a good thing to not program when you only have 1 hour to program and you want to implement a big feature. Maybe next time work on the small features. The small features, not the big features. When you only have an hour. Okay, that's all I have for now. I'm gonna actually go do things now. So now it's Friday, and I still have the map bug that I'm trying to figure out. I've been rubber ducking, basically trying to explain the steps up on my Twitter, just for my own benefit, to try to figure out what's going wrong, try to think of something. I'm still diagnosing it, but since it's Friday, basically, if I can't figure out what's going wrong, I'm going to have to figure out an alternative. So that might mean rewriting some of the map code or just doing it from scratch, which I don't want to do because I want to know what's wrong. Just readjusting it in some way so that it works if I just can't find the bug itself. I don't think I'm going to have to revert back to the text file format, even though that worked flawlessly for me, but I don't know what I'm doing exactly wrong here. But it might be worth it to just kind of erase the map loading. No, not the map loading. I think that's fine. I think erasing maybe how I'm storing the tile data and making a new system for that and seeing if I can get some tiles drawing. We'll see if that works out. Because it's Friday and I have done nothing else this week but look at the map bug. And that's a disappointment. I want to work on the fun things. This is so frustrating. I hate technology. So I can hit the play button. I don't know. I spawned in a collision area. Let's move her over a little bit, but otherwise it's fine now. I'm going to talk about what happened. It was a very trying time in my life. Like I stuck to. Because they're not currently being loaded from the map file. But look, it works. The maps are drawing. It's been like a freaking week. So let's talk about what I did. So as you know, I was trying to change the map to use JSON files because I thought when you export from tiled, it will let you export to a JSON format, and I didn't want to run everything through the tile converter every time. So all the data was loading fine. I spent hours working on trying to figure out how come suddenly why only one layer was drawing. And I checked a bunch of logs. I should have known this sooner, right? Like, I don't know, reflecting on it, it's like, I knew only one layer was drawing. I knew only the first layer was drawing. But I did not check this one thing, and I only realized it once I was rewriting the map load code. But in the process, I also wrote a draw manager, and then I rewrote the draw manager. And so, where's the start of the thread? Where now I just on Twitter I was like, I'm gonna rubber duck this because I just can't figure it out. So let's find the first one where I was talking about the issues. Okay. So the maps were drawing fine with my format before, but I had a just different logic for parsing it. So I'm using a new JSON library, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but we're going to talk about this bug first. So I added this new map loader. All of it seemed to be loading everything fine. I can't believe I didn't notice this in a log. Wait a minute. I remember like thinking, why is this off the screen at some point? I don't know. But like I was seeing if the position stored in the object itself matched what was on the sprite, which it did, but as you can tell, oh my god, like this is, the screen height is 720. I just didn't look at the Y coordinate, I guess. And as you can see, this is from the 12th, this is from yesterday when I've been messing with it for a bit. Since last week. But I didn't do any coding on Tuesday because I had finals. So I tried to directly draw instead of using the draw manager. That didn't work. Of course, nothing I tried worked because none of those were the problem. I guess my thread got messed up, but I definitely knew only the first layer was drawing. And I tried all sorts of different ways to diagnose the issue. And, you know, I ran across a bunch of, ran into some circular dependencies and that caused some stuff, and I had to retool stuff. I don't know. There's still also only drawing one layer. So here's like the map file, and then here's the one layer it was drawing. I was able to manually create tiles and manually set their positions, and those worked. For some reason, I thought it was a problem with the layers or how I was storing the layers and not with the positioning. So that all was okay. This got messed up in the export. That's not really what I wanted. I mean, that's fine, but my assumption in the code was that it would be pointing elsewhere. And I don't know how to update that in tiled. But we'll talk about that later if it's something to talk about. So as I'm going through and rewriting my map loady code, just tiny bits at a time to make sure like I was thinking maybe I'll just load all the tiles and set their positions, but only set the images to this or that. I thought maybe it was a problem with the images themselves. Like I was getting the wrong sprite coordinates. And then I thought, wait a minute, because this is in this sort of format and not in the format I like where I say tile begin, tile X, tile Y, film strip X, film strip Y, stuff like that. Because it's in a grid like this, and then you also have to count for 0 means like there's nothing there. I have to keep a running count of like tile X, and then when you get to the tile width, you move. So let's see if I can do this. Tile X, 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 end of the map, reset X back to 0, and then go down by 1 Y, and then keep doing that. And what I should have been doing is setting the X and Y back to 0 between each layer, because then it just restarts that. And I didn't. And it took me a very long time to find the problem. So that's the fix. Yay! I'm just gonna die right here. Okay, so let's look at the JSON stuff. So that was actually pretty easy to use. This right here is the library I'm using for reading in the JSON in C++. I don't know how to pronounce it. In Loman JSON library thing. And it has a bunch of documentation. I barely read any of it. I just did what I had to do to get the basic stuff working. And really all I need to do is pull data. I don't really need to do anything else here. So first I had to just read it in like a normal input file stream. And then you just create that JSON object and use the stream operator to read that in. It takes care of that, so that worked out good. And then you just reference it kind of like you would in like Python if you were reading JSON in Python, or if you had read JSON into PHP as like an associative array. So then really, let's look at the file also of the map file, so I can kind of compare. So this is the map file over here. We have height. It's just loading height from that key, width, version, and all of that. Then I have, it has a array of tile sets listed, which my maps should really only have one tile set, I guess. I don't know. That's all I really need. So in the tile sets, I don't know what you call this in JSON, but like a list, the tile sets list, it has the first object, the first dictionary has its own information, and that gets loaded in. Then down, I need to erase this. Then there are different layers. So if we go up here and look, there is a list of layers, and I can just iterate through these layers and get this data out. So layer of type, layer name, and so on. And then I do the same sort of thing with loading in that data right here. So that's just a list of numbers, which honestly, this is the why I write map converters, is because I don't like listing my data this way. So yeah, but anyway, it's just an array of numbers. So I am loading it as an auto and then casting it to an int and then offsetting it by 1 because what was it? Zero, like it starts tile number 0 at number 1. Everything is 1 based and tiled. But to do my calculations, I need to be 0 based. So there's that. But really, I don't really know what else to say about the JSON library. It's just pretty easy to use, at least for like loading information. I don't need to write out any JSON, maybe later or something, maybe for save game files, but I don't think I'm going to have save game files for this game because it's going to be short. So yeah, that was easy. So now what? Well, how many hours have I been working on this? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 hours so far just to fix the bug. Today, I've worked on it more besides that. So now that that's done, the next, I guess, would be loading information about where things are on the map file. And not just randomly putting them on the screen. So we'll do that next. I'm gonna take a break and I don't know, I'm just gonna take a break. Thanks for watching. Cheese louder Vito, I guess. There's a cat over here. Enjoy this cat. Hi, I'm very sorry, but I'm going to advertise to you some more. Hey, I'm making some stickers with cute drawings and stuff. And those are up on Redbubble now if you want to buy a sticker. Yay! I'm getting really tired of my computer crashing when I try to do stuff while it's rendering. Sad face.